We've all been there. It's 3 a.m. and you're currently 7 videos deep down the rabbit hole trying to decide for yourself whether or not birds are real. Spoiler alert, they are not real. Today I'm going to cover some of the most insane fan theories from the 3 titans of adult cartoons: South Park, Family Guy, and The Simpsons. These shows have been around since the beginning of time, so there are bound to be some absolutely mind-bending fan theories crafted over the years. I'm going to have to roll up my sleeves and put on an extra layer of deodorant because we are jumping into the depths of Reddit to find some outlandish fan theories. No. I'm really excited to hear some wild takes. Maybe I'll really find out how Randy became Lord, or why Herbert, never mind. I don't really want to know anything about Herbert. YouTube analytics say statistically 89% of you are watching this while actively in the bathroom. So what's one more conspiracy video? While you finish up whatever it is that you are doing in there. Let's not waste any more time and let's get right into the video. If you enjoyed this type of content, be sure to subscribe. It's scientifically proven that all subscribers smell good enough to skip their next monthly shower. Lucky you! If you want to see more videos like this, feel free to drop suggestions in the comments below. We also have a Discord if you want to share any hot takes or reply absurd answers to our daily question of the day. As always, a massive shout out to our channel members and Patreons for their continued support. I really appreciate it. Typically, I'm not a fan of the theories where the whole hook is that one of the characters was dead or has been in a coma the entire show. Die. But this South Park theory is a bit different, and it's actually kind of interesting. This theory states that every event that occurs in South Park is simply the boys' perception of the world around them. Credit where credit is due, this theory was posted on the fan theory subreddit by Ninja Tofu 1014. Big shocker, in this theory, Kenny is actually deceased. Kenny is still in every episode because the story is through the perspective of the boys who are struggling to terms with Kenny's fate. What I think is really interesting about this theory is that it claims the first episode, chronologically, is the episode where Kenny dies. This is the season 5 episode where Kenny actually does leave the show for almost an entire season. Cartman tries to save Kenny in this episode and ends up using the stem cell research that he got approved to make a new pizza place. This leads Stan and Kyle to be more disappointed than I was when I wanted cereal but all we had in the pantry was Raisin Bran. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is eating Raisin Bran cereal. Cartman's selfishness in the episode Kenny dies leads to everyone being cold towards him in the future episodes. In this episode, we can also see how hard it is for the main boys to cope with this traumatic event. It makes sense that they would imagine Kenny with them, still in memory as they struggle to deal with life without him. This would explain why Kenny is always with them, and then happens to die somewhere throughout each episode. Since the story is told from the main boys' perspectives, this would include Kenny in the good times. But eventually they remember what happened to him. This theory states that the boys heavily base their adventures off of popular media. In the Mysterion episode, the boys try to explain why Kenny is always present. Kenny has immortality because his parents made a deal with the cult of Cthulhu. This is pretty wild, and could be another instance of the boys having vivid imaginations, leading right into the second major claim of this theory. The events that happen in South Park are unrealistically absurd, like the time giant guinea pigs invaded the world, or the time Randy took a record-breaking dookie, or any time Pip is on the screen. Because as we all know, British people don't actually exist. These events are the boys trying to interpret their lives, similarly to things that they perceive as cool, such as popular media. The original theorist cites the episode where all the parents are overreacting to the news of Barack Obama winning the presidency. The giant partying in the streets didn't actually occur, but the boys are justifying their parents' reactions. Ninja Tofu also states that the parents in South Park aren't inherently dumb, but their failure to relate to the kids causes the kids to perceive them as dumb. And since the show that we see is through the boys' interpretation, this leads to them coming off as dumb to us, the viewer. What do you think about this theory? Can you recall any events that directly contradict any of this? I think this theory is really interesting, especially the statement that Kenny dies is chronologically the first episode in the series. It makes sense with all the absurd events in the show that this is just the boys stretching their imaginations while dealing with the tragic loss of Kenny. It also makes more sense as to why Kenny dies in every episode. It wasn't some cult cursing his parents, but the boys missing him and including him in their adventures. This theory is pretty dark. As for how much truth I think this theory holds, I'll give it a 4 suspicious owls out of 10. Fun theory though, and interesting to think about. The theories aren't getting any more lighthearted with this one. So here's a quick picture of my cat to help lighten the mood a bit. Aww. This theory states that Butters is abused by his parents. It's true that Butter's relationship with his parents is a strained one. It seems that no matter what he does, he always fears their retaliation in the form of being grounded. In the season 6 episode Freak Strike, Butters doesn't want to go to New York to be on Maury in fear of being grounded. And you know what? As a new parent, I kind of agree. Butters needs to be grounded for this. You can't just be flying to New York pretending you have balls on your chin to get on Maury's talk show. Let's instead consider the episode Butters' very own episode, where Butters' own mom tries to drown him in her car after going crazy. This is attempted murder, let alone abuse. Butters goes through a lot of trauma during South Park. The original theorist points out something very strange that can't possibly be a coincidence though. In the episode Margarine, the boys convince Butters to fake his own death in order to come back to school as a new girl named Margarine. Margarine, is that how you say it? Margarine pronunciation. Why am I spelling it with a J? Cleverly by the writers, this is another name for Butter, but it sounds more feminine. Butters goes through with the plan, and the boys sell it by throwing a pig wearing his clothes off a building. Man, they really put his parents through a lot. And understandably, this deeply traumatizes his parents. Butters eventually gets invited to the girls' sleepover to steal their future predicting device, but that's not before he breaks down in the bathroom.
Nobody likes me. You don't know how hard it is to be me.
Margarine, we were just teasing.
Here, Butters may be suggesting that his home life is worse than we perceived. Butters eventually returns home, leading his parents to think that he is some zombified version of himself. They chain him up in the basement, and the episode ends. But this story doesn't end here. In the next episode, Follow That Egg, Butters isn't present, not even for a second, hinting that Butters may still be locked in the basement from the week prior. What do we think about this one? I feel like this one holds up a bit more than the last. Maybe this also explains why Butters allegedly has multi-personality disorder. I think this theory holds up a bit. Butters is put in some really tough situations, but some of his quotes through the show may suggest that something else is going on. We already know that his grandma abuses him, so is it really a stretch that his parents also abuse him? I'm gonna give this theory 7 cats out of 10 today, on my Theory Truthometer 5000 trademark pending. We're moving over to Family Guy with what might be one of the most popular fan theories to date. The theory is that Lois is not Stewie's real mom. Meg is. This theory predates the show, stating that before the show, Meg was pregnant. Her boyfriend at the time went to look for the newest set of Pokemon cards and hasn't been back since. This is because it is impossible to find any Pokemon in the stores. I just want some dopamine from pulling cool cards. Lois and Brian decided to cover up the pregnancy to help protect Meg. They got Chris and Peter to believe the lie. The theory does not specify how they hid the fact that Meg was pregnant for 9 months and Lois was not, so maybe the whole town is also in on the secret and nobody's gonna be the one to tell Peter. There are some scenes in the show where Stewie's birth is shown, but it's all from his perspective. You can't definitively see who Stewie's mom really is. Living purely off of speculation, this theory is a bit of a stretch. It's like trying to convince someone that Mountain Lightning and Mountain Dew are the same thing. I thought this theory was dead in the water. But a small one-off line in a banned episode of Family Guy gives it some more merit. The episode Partial Terms of Endearment was banned before it ever made its way on the air. But the episode did air in the United Kingdom. This contradicts my earlier statement that British people are in fact not real. I wanted to offer you this small piece of chocolate as a very sincere apology. Sorry to the Brits. In this episode, Lois refers to Meg as Stewie's real mom.
I can do it.
Oh, come on, Meg. It was hot enough on your body when you gave birth to Stewie.
What?
Was this hinting that Meg may be Stewie's real mom? Or were the writers just leaning into this wild theory? There are, in fact, quite a few contradictions to this theory. The largest being that Meg does the Devil's Tango for the first time with Jimmy Fallon in a season 4 episode. I'm not buying this theory, not in the slightest. It just doesn't make enough sense in the Family Guy universe. It's an interesting theory for sure, but aside from the one-off line, there just isn't enough data to support this claim. This leads me to confidently saying that this one is not true. I'll rank it a 2 Brozo Brenos out of 10 on the truth meter. Finally, this guy mentioned the Brozo Breno in a video again. Finally, we have a theory that is more lighthearted. This theory states that Family Guy exists within the American Dad universe. And we might as well bundle in the Cleveland show before we forget it, because, you know, it's really easy to forget that show. It isn't going to take much convincing to believe that the Cleveland show is in the same universe as Family Guy. Cleveland came from Family Guy before getting his own spin-off, which crashed and burned. There's no argument there, but does American Dad tie into this? There have been plenty of cameos in which the shows reference one another. The episode Stewie kills Lois might be the first instance of this. When Stewie goes to take over the CIA, he runs into Stan Smith and Director Bullock. They try to stop him from taking over, but they're too late. And this is one of many crossovers between the two shows. The Family Guy wiki has multiple pages of the shows existing within the universe of the others. Another prime example is the Night of the Hurricane. The Night of the Hurricane was a three-way crossover between Family Guy, American Dad, and the Cleveland show, where one hurricane hits Quahog, Langley Falls, and Stool Bend. Each show has their own episodes, showing how each family deals with the hurricane. But the ending of American Dad's episode features Peter, Cleveland, and Stan all squaring off. This all but confirms that the three shows exist in the same universe. There have been other instances of shows cameoing in Family Guy, like Bob's Burgers and King of the Hill to name a couple, but there's not as much proof out there to support that either of these shows exist in the same universe. But it's an interesting thought. I think this theory is pretty cut and dry. I'm giving this one 10 chickens out of 10 on the truth meter. Even if the writers outright said these two shows were in different universes, I wouldn't believe it. I'm only going to cover one Simpsons theory today. I've only seen about 25 episodes of the show, so I'm not an expert by any means. This theory is all but disproved, so I feel confident enough to discuss it today. Me flexing my Simpsons knowledge would be like the Buffalo Bills flexing their Super Bowl trophies. I first saw this theory presented by Hard to Pick a Name on the Fan Theory subreddit, and it's quite a popular one. This theory claims that Homer has been in a coma since 6 months after season 4's episode, Homer the Heretic. At the end of this episode, Homer's talking to God. He asks God the meaning of life, to which God replies he can't tell Homer until he dies. Homer then claims that he can't wait that long, and God implies that Homer will meet his demise in 6 months. 6 months of actual time later, in an episode, Homer is put into a coma, and this theory claims that Homer never woke up from that coma. This would explain why over the 36 years of airtime, the characters never age. Homer's just imagining everyone as he knew them before his comatose state. Hard to Pick a Name also points out that the episodes prior to this are relatively grounded in their storylines. Like Bart cheats on a test, or Lisa has a crush, but after Homer's coma starts, the plotlines become absurd. Homer goes to space, or Homer works for a supervillain, just to name a couple. This theory was largely considered as a possible reality until just recently. Season 34's episode Lisa the Boy Scout fully disproves this theory, 30 full seasons after the theory's inception. In this episode, 2 hackers are releasing unaired Simpsons clips until a ransom of Bitcoin is met. You can really tell that this one was made in the last 5 years, huh? Towards the end, they seemingly tackle a lot of long-running theories, but most importantly, they show the scene where Homer wakes up from his coma. Turns out that he was only out for 2 days, but he did dream up over 700 adventures and B-plot lines. This is a super unique and meta way to dispel one of the series' longest running fan theories. Going back 30 seasons to address this theory was really unique, and it was the main reason I included this theory in today's list. Modern Simpsons has continued to parody some of the older episodes and theories, leading to a nice little resurgence for the show that is 14 years older than myself. I call myself old, and I'm only 27, but the Simpsons are ancient. Aside from the writers directly debunking this theory, I feel like this theory holds some merit. Logically, it makes sense, and has some supporting evidence in the episodes, but unfortunately I'm gonna have to give this one a 0 dogs out of 10 on the truth meter, because this theory was quite literally disproved by the writers. There we have it, 5 theories from the 3 biggest shows in adult animation. The best theory of the day in my opinion was that South Park is told through the eyes of the main boys. This theory felt the most comprehensive to me, and explained some of the oddities in the show. The insane plotlines that spiral out of control are simply just the boys' imaginations. If the series really started on the episode Kenny Dies, the show would have an entirely new perspective. I really enjoyed the full circle theory of Homer's coma. I don't know of any other times that a show's writers have addressed a fan theory in a similar manner. It's insane to me that the theory lasted for almost 30 seasons before they decided to tackle it in the show. There are tons and tons of wild and wacky theories out there. I just chose a few that I thought were the most interesting for today's video. If there are any that I missed that you personally enjoy, feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, drop any ideas or suggestions in the comments below. If you enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe. Subscribing helps me out a ton. A link to the Discord is also below, and if you made it this long, click another video to show the mighty YouTube algorithm that I am indeed worthy. Thanks for watching.